President Donald Trump has announced a full U.S. government boycott of this year's G20 summit in South Africa, escalating his criticism of the country's treatment of its white minority. Trump declared that no U.S. officials would attend the meeting, claiming that Afrikaners face human rights abuses, including farm killings and land confiscations. The decision extends beyond Trump's previously announced personal absence, effectively removing all U.S. representation from the International Economic Forum. Now, South African officials have repeatedly denied these allegations, with President Cyril Ramaphosa previously challenging Trump to specify where such abuses were occurring. The boycott continues the administration's focus on the issue, which has included prioritizing refugee admissions for Afrikaners. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also previously announced that he would boycott the Johannesburg summit, criticizing its focus on diversity and climate issues. Well, joining us now is a research fellow at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Dr. Kester Onor. He will be discussing President Donald Trump's decision to boycott the G20 summit, Build for South Africa, and Trump's African policy in general. Thank you so much for joining us on this very, very important conversation.
Thank you for inviting me once again.
Absolutely. Now, that's President Trump has announced that no U.S. government official will attend the 2025 G20 summit in Johannesburg. He says there's a human rights abuses against white Afrikaner farmers in South Africa. Now, what would you say is a general overview of this, considering what is also happening in Nigeria at this time, where he has also spoken about the alleged, in his words, specific genocide in Nigeria? Of course, the Nigerian government disputes this claim to say there is no genocide, but that possible U.S. invasion against these attacks. What do you think the general overview of what is going on between Trump and Africa looks like right now?
Thank you very much. Let's not look at it from the general overview of what is going on between Trump and Africa, as if there is a battle between America and Africa. We are all aware that America has been playing an important role in Africa, and they will continue to play that role, So it's all about national interests. America felt concerned over South African domestic policies that has to do with land expropriation, laws. At least they see, USC, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, believed that South African policy does not work in line with American national interest. And as a country, you know that in international politics, national interest comes first, So based on the issue of that of Nigeria, like we discussed a few days ago, it's not an attack on Nigeria, like I said earlier, that they are coming to Nigeria not to invade Nigeria, but to flush out the terrorists that are within the enclave of Nigeria. So it's not as if there is a friction between America and Africa. America is a strong ally to most African countries.
Of course. Now, going back to what's happening with South Africa and the United States, do you think that the absence of any U.S. official, the G20 summit, will influence America's multilateral relations when it comes to African engagements?
Well, we as Africans, we expected America to be there. Because if you look at the G20, it's a group of 19 world-leading economy, then with the inclusion of European Union making it G20. And South Africa is the only African representation we are having. And African Union are equally planning to be part of that G20 group. So if America abstains, definitely it will impact on us in some ways, considering the fact that the consensus that may be coming out of that meeting, without the presence of the highest economy in the world, that consensus will be a bit weakened.
So tell us about outcomes based on what you said, the possible impacts. What are those likely outcomes?
Well, there are a lot of outcomes if we look at the implication. One, at least, is going to undermine the prestige of South Africa, and the perceived success of even SA presidency. And again, I believe that the American absence may equally create a loophole because it will now give other contesting powers, for them to come in and fill the gap.
Okay.
Considering the fact that there is no vacuum in the international system. So we would like America to be there, not by way of making concession, no, but at least for them to be there to provide the needed leadership. Considering the fact that even the next G20 presidency will be America. So there can be a smooth transition.
Okay, now let's look at Trump's African policy in general. A lot of people have described his African policy as almost transactional. How would you assess this characterization?
If we look at the Trump African policy, calling it transactional, then you have to look at his policy within a broader framework. You look at his relationship with other countries. You can see him, at least look at him negotiating, with other countries. He came out and said that it's MAGA, Make America Great. And the task of every good leader is to project his national interest, So I believe that his policy, so far so good, is now left for African leaders, for them to dialogue diplomatically and see how, they can make it a win-win situation.
Okay. Now, when it comes to this gap, like if President Trump sees this through and there's no representation of the United States at the G20, how do you think this gap might be filled by the likes of China and Russia? Are they seeing this as an opportunity?
Definitely, I said it before that there is no vacuum in international politics. I would have loved America to be there for them to provide the needed leadership. You understand? And that at least it can equally help, to reduce uncertainty. And maybe if they stay away from the G20 meeting, it's obvious that at least it will become less effective. You cannot write America off. Yeah. We are working with America. We want to continue working with America. If there are any issues on the border, I think these issues should be, resolved through diplomatic process.
Diplomatic process, and that's absolutely right. If you look at, previous U.S. administrations, like during Biden, you had the Partnership for Global Infrastructure. Obama had the Power Africa, policy that he was pushing at the time. Now, what does this boycott mean? Do you think it reinforces the perception that Africa at this time may not be priority, especially for President Trump? You just spoke about MAGA, Make America Great Again. So it's always going to be about the interest of America. But how does this now, is this interest at the detriment of Africa at any point in time? And based off his concerns that he has raised, the maltreatment of these people, do you think that this situation just reflects that broader context of Africa really not just being priority?
Well, beyond his concern about maltreatment of white farmers, that is Africans, and the land expropriation law, America has equally raised, the issue of the agenda setting for the G20, which is to promote solidarity, equality, and sustainability, or what we may call a DEI, that is diversity, equity, inclusion, strong climate or green agenda. And they believe that these agendas does not align with American interest. Then when we are talking about, you are talking about Obama administration and Biden, we should equally realize that Obama and Biden they are Democrats. And Trump is a Republican. And these are two parties that have different agenda. But however, regardless of these agendas, American interest comes first. It's now left for African leaders, for them, because looking at the time we are in now, Africa is gaining global prominence. You look at the enormous human and material resources in Africa, like you can see the market in Africa, the market that the African population provide. You see our demographics, you see our growing populations and all these things. All these things make Africa an attractive place. So America cannot, ignore Africa this time around. So it's left for our leaders to come together and see how they can work, together and at least let it be a win-win situation.
Well, let's see how that goes. But I would like to thank you for your analysis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Kester Onor. We appreciate your time here on Newsday. Thank you.
Thank you.